Guys, Tiffany Shepis.
It's kind of cool that we have like people here for a one-day show, huh? Like, in a one-day show is kind of awesome, in my opinion.
It could be a disaster.
It could be an absolute disaster.
But I think it's good so far.
I think it's good. It kind of gives you like a whole like, oh wow, horror, it's still here. They haven't died yet.
Plus, it's nice to get out from the winter.
Well, it's kind of nice out today, isn't it?
Well, basically, yeah, for the weather we've been seeing over the last few months anyway. It's not snowing, so that's good.
That is good.
All right, ready to get started?
Let's do it.
Okay, cool. Well, if you guys don't know, Tiffany got her start out with Trauma, which you guys know Trauma, right?
Sure. Who doesn't know Trauma?
Well, some people might not. That would be a shame.
People are
That's true.
It's like a dog.
And you got started with them pretty young. How did you get started with them, and was it accidental, or was this like something you really wanted to do at the time?
I had like no aspirations to be an actor or anything like that. Like, I lived in Manhattan, and I knew a bunch of kids that like went to really douchebag like acting schools, and I go to Juilliard, and I do this, and I go on auditions for theater, and I was like, oh wow, that sounds lame. You know, I just like to watch horror movies. Like, I'd sit at home, my mom would go out of town, my brother and I'd watch trauma films and really weird stuff that was filmed in our hometown. And back when they had cool like mom and pop video stores where you can actually find awesome movies. And at the school I was going to, there was a kid and she was reading an actor's paper, and I was like, wow, what do you guys really do? Like, let me see this. And there was an ad for Trauma, and they were casting Romeo and Juliet, and I was like, oh, that'd be awesome. It could be in a movie where I get killed or something. And I was like, 15 years old. I'm like, that would be so cool. And like, I had like, like the bubble that pops up in your head of me getting like decapitated, and I was like, awesome. And so I cut school and I went to the audition. I got the part, and it was a part of Peter, which was a bodyguard to the Capulet family, because there were really no parts left in the movie, and I was too young to play anything else because everything had nudity. And but because Trauma is awesome and the fans of the genre are awesome, after that I kind of just kept working and ended up hosting a TV show for Trauma in the UK called Edge TV for Channel 4, and that's kind of it.
Well, with Trauma, I know that obviously everything's super low budget.
Yeah.
How much stuff did you learn on Romeo and Juliet?
Dude, everything. Everything. Like, I tell so many people, and like, I'm not sure if it's the same nowadays, because, I mean, there's just so many people making low-budget movies in their own town, and like, I tell so many kids, they're like, oh, how do I get into filmmaking? I'm like, dude, pick up a camera and make a movie. Like, it doesn't matter if it's good or bad, like, you don't have to have real actors in it. You can use your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, and put an ad out on Craigslist. You'd be surprised how many people will come to audition for your film, because it's the best way to learn anything. I mean, with Trauma in particular, like, there's no money for marketing, so you gotta learn how to grassroots do it yourself, do internet campaigns, and even back then, like, you're talking 16 years ago for Romeo and Juliet, internet wasn't really even all that popular. It was all go out and, tag things on the school bus, and, go to bars and hand out flyers, and it's about kind of just, if you want it that bad, you'll do it yourself. Nobody's gonna do it for you, no distributor's gonna do it for you. If you have a distribution company, you don't sit there and cry because, oh, nobody watches my movie and Amazon didn't pick it up. Well, fuck you. Go on Facebook and talk about it. And don't just do a mass mailing that pisses everybody off when they get it. Actually, like, connect with your fans and go, hey, John, dude, have you watched my new movie yet? Awesome, cool, how's your wife? If people feel connected with you, they're gonna want to support your stuff, And that's, I think, the one really awesome thing about Lloyd Kaufman in particular is, like, if you meet that guy at a convention, pretty certain 90% of the time he's going to remember you, and if he doesn't remember you, he's going to pretend. And it makes you feel like, oh shit, Trump is cool.
Well, Lloyd, he has like a pretty big personality. He's a eccentric guy, I guess would be the best way to explain it. How much different is he on a movie set than when you just meet him at a convention, or is it fairly similar? It's
fairly similar, however, I mean, if you've ever gotten past the crazy, oh, hey, oh, look, look who's here, Ed's here, oh, everybody, Ed, if you can get past that, you realize he's a super smart man. The guy went to Yale University and can speak 6 languages, and he's super smart. So on a film set, the energy's still there. However, you realize what vast knowledge he has in filmmaking and movies in general, and not just horror films. I mean, you could talk to him about old classics, and he could tell you who directed it, who shot it, who was the art director, and there's something that you can totally learn from that, because it's like, just because you're a horror geek doesn't mean you have to be stupid to everything else on the planet.
One of the things with Lloyd that is kind of interesting to me is he's always fighting for the little guy.
Yeah.
And like when you work with him, is that a message that you definitely get from him, or is it more along the lines of he's just making a movie, it is what it is?
Well, I think Trauma still is the little guy. You know, I mean, even though they've made money and you know, we all laugh when Lloyd goes, "Oh, I'm so broke," and Trauma's so broke, and you're like, "Yeah, okay," you know, not broke like me, you know. But they're still the little guy. I mean, they're not a Warner Brothers that's getting, you know, $20 million to make these bad movies. You know, they're still the little people. They're the people that are fighting to get these movies out, and I think he's really the last one that really stood for truly independent film. And so. I don't remember your question, because I quit smoking and I'm a weirdo right now. Like, I've become a fucking weirdo. Like, I was always kind of, like, odd, but, like, without smoking, like, I don't know what people are saying, and I can look at y'all all weird.
Want a cigarette?
No kidding, dude. I had dreams last night about smoking. And the weird part was, like, I asked somebody, it was at a convention, and I think it was here today, in my dream last night. And I was like, oh yeah, dude, let me just have one drag. And, like, I get the cigarette, but by the time my hand got to my mouth, the cigarette was gone, and it was just the filter, and I was like, motherfucker! And I woke up.
What about those electronic cigarettes?
Those are so stupid.
They've got to they've got to totally suck.
Oh,
There's no way they can be, you know.
I know, quitting's dumb.
How did you quit?
Cold turkey.
It's the best way to do it.
Yeah, dude, like, you have to, I think. Like, 'cause you can actually feel it coming out of your, yeah, my tiger's blood. He's such a Fruit Loop, huh? Charlie
He's
Sheen.
the best.
This girl only smokes like once a week, so you should just be like that.
Who does?
He does.
Oh, you're just stupid.
Well, you
Once a week.
just smoke when I'm drinking or, you know, on the weekends.
Oh, God.
Yeah, weekend warrior smoker.
Start drinking more. That's probably
Smoke some crack today.
All right, let's go do that now. What's the hardest thing about acting in, like, independent movies?
Hardest thing. There's two sides to that. Whenever I want to complain about my job, I have to then smack myself and go, shut the hell up. Like, you make horror movies for a living, and that's pretty awesome. Bad side and hard side to doing that is you make horror movies for a living. Like, you're always dirty, you're always covered in blood, you're always shooting in some place that's cold or wet or rainy or dirty or unsafe. Like, oh look, we got the condemned airplane hangar that no one's been in for 40 years. We should shoot there. Like, oh, cool. You know, oh, we couldn't afford the fake machete, so we're gonna use the real one. You know, dumb shit like that. That you go, wow, why do I do this? Like, working at the convenience store would be way better. And you know, and then like the other day, I just had to talk about this because I was super sick while we're shooting. Like, I mean, like ear pain. Like, I thought my eardrum was gonna explode. Like, you know, when your sinuses are so bad, your head is just like this big and everything's echoey. I was dying, like I had a fever, like I thought I had like SARS or something. Like, I was like sweaty mess, and they're like, action! I'm like, oh, hey, here I am, awesome. I'm like, fuck, why can't I just go home? You don't get sick days, you don't get time off. Like, if you're ready to shoot, you're ready to shoot, you know, because if you call in sick, that costs, you know, an entire budget. Like, you know, if you're working on $1 million movie, you're talking about a $20,000 a day if you just decide you can't show up. You know, which is why these big actors, like the Lindsay Lohans and so on and so forth, are quote-unquote uninsurable. It's not like uninsurable like they might die. It's because if they don't show up, they can't call in an insurance day because they're going to waste, you know, on those movies probably, you know, $500,000 when they don't show up. So stuff like that's kind of difficult. You know, hard part about indie filmmaking is that, like, you may have this really cool script and you know everybody's really hungry, and the cool part about horror movie filmmakers is that they have so much heart, you know, and they want to put their all into something, but then you sit there and you go, oh, poor baby, like, he wants to shoot this, but we only have $10,000, like, good luck. You know, and it's like, you get to this point where you're like, fuck, like, you just want to tell them to wait. You know, wait until you can maybe one day pull a budget together, because you're kind of going to ruin it. And not that any great film needs a big budget, but occasionally, to pull off some of these things, you need something, you know. So that's hard. It's hard to watch people make these films that you know really deserve a bigger budget, but they just don't have access to it, you know. Okay. Or people that don't make their money back. You know, people can make a friggin' great movie, and for whatever reason the market turns this way, and all of a sudden, you know, zombies are out and gay vampires are back in, and, you know, your movie gets the bottom shelf at only the last blockbuster left on Earth, you know, and, you know, that's very disheartening when you see people pour their heart and soul into something and it's actually quality and they never make a penny.
Just out of curiosity, has any of your independent work, like, kind of derailed parts of your career? Like, if you went on a audition or something and they're really interested in you, and then they find out that you work with Trauma or some of the films, and they're like, you know what, no, never mind?
You know, not really, and only because I think I only go out for jobs that they love me. I hate competition, and I certainly don't want to go on to something where they're going to say no. So, it hasn't much, but I've heard about it happening. Like, on Night of the Demons, there was a girl, like this before I was brought in, there was a girl who, I can't say her name, because I don't remember. But there was this chick, and she went out for the part, and they heard that on her resume she did all these Charlie Band films. And the executive producer, you know, and Night of the Demons is a $5 million movie. They're like, she did Charlie Band movies, we hate those movies, they're trash. Nope. And this girl was amazing, I guess. Like, she did a kick-ass audition, couldn't use her. So, I think there's definitely, the problem is it's usually not the horror fans that are going to do that, it's the big executive douchebag that's going to be like, oh, horror movies, you know, indie low budget, we can't possibly have that, you know. But it hasn't affected me, I just choose really low budget bad films.
And have you ever been in an experience, like as a woman working, especially a younger woman working in movies, like where you go on an audition or something and somebody's just completely out of their mind, like you're like saying something completely off the wall, like you're way too heavy for this part, or you need to get facial surgery, or just anything like...
Oh, that'd be so weird. No, but I did have one of like the weirdest casting couch, like I never actually thought that existed when I was, I must have been like 17. There's this movie that came out, it's called Skippy, and like I don't even know if anyone's ever even like seen or heard of this movie. It had like William Sadler in it. Well, the director got a hold of me because like he was a fan of some crappy Trauma thing I did, and in New York, and was like, we want to fly you out here. We're gonna be like, you know, like a 6-line part in this movie we're doing for Warner Brothers. And I was like, cool, you know, make horror films like at that time, 17 years old, if you fucking paid me $50, I'd be like, yeah, let's go. I'll drive myself. He flew me out to LA, put me up in this really fancy hotel, took me to where they were showing the dailies at Warner Brothers, like it was all legit. And he was like, oh, I'll drive you back. And I was like, oh, great, cool, like what a nice guy, drive me back to the hotel. And he's like, so, you know, I wanted to talk about wardrobe, and I thought maybe, you know, I could come on in and we could talk about it. I'm like, whoa, dude, what are you doing? And he's like, well, maybe you just want to give me a kiss. And I'm like, whoa, what the fuck? No, I don't want to give you a kiss. And he's like, why not? And I'm like, who asked why not? If somebody doesn't want to kiss you, they don't want to fucking kiss you. Go away. And he's like, well, all right, whatever. And he walked out, and I was like, are you still coming to get me tomorrow for the shoot? And he never showed up. That's sad. It's a sad story. Anyway, so the casting couch stuff certainly happens, but it's usually on dumbass fucking movies like Skippy. Like, who ever heard of that? But never any weird thing where they've asked me to, you know, remove an eyeball or get surgery. However, the director of Night of the Demons, which I'm doing my next movie with called Schism, just asked me recently if I'd get a real tattoo for the film. I was like, no. Like, that's what you guys have like fake ones for. I got enough crappy tattoos. No.
Get a good one.
Huh?
Get a good one.
I guess I could have, but I don't think the one they were asking me to get was good. And also, no, like, it's a movie. That's why it's fake. Like,
She's gonna wash it off.
yeah, exactly.
Just out of curiosity, whenever you got approached about Night of the Demons, was it something that you wanted to do, or were you kind of like, man, I might get crucified for this one?
Dude, no, I was such a fan of the original Night of the Demons, and I'm really good friends with Kevin Tenney, and Kevin Tenney's like stamp of approval was on that film. I was like, dude, I will do craft service on this film just to be part of it. Because I'm not one of those that just hates every remake on the planet. I don't. Like, I'll give most things a fair shot. Now, most remakes happen to be big pieces of garbage, but I understand the place for them, and I didn't for a minute. But it took I have 2 half-sisters, and they're both fairly young, and it took one of them, I was talking about the Chainsaw remake way back when, and she's like, oh my god, this Chainsaw movie is so awesome, it's the coolest, scariest thing I've ever seen. I'm like, have you ever seen the original? She's like, what original? And I was like, oh my god. But it's because of kids like that age, that don't even know these movies existed, that I think it's important to have these remakes, because then at that point she goes, there was an original, and it's scarier and cooler. I'm like, hell yeah, cool, I have to go get it. Right. So it resurrects these movies, because, sorry guys, all of us are going to die off pretty soon, and so will these fucking movies. So we got to bring the breed, these younger kids, back to watch the original stuff, and know that it was cool and everything. And I don't know what I'm talking about, because I watched Cigarette. But yeah, no, so for Night of the Demons, I mean, perhaps if Kevin Tenney, like, you know, did some internet campaign that was like, don't watch Night of the Demons, I hate it, I probably would have had to jump on the bandwagon, but since he was so jazzed about it and was like, wow, cool, they're going to pay homage to my stuff.
So is it safe to say that you're a Linnea Quigley fan then?
Love Linnea. Who didn't love Linnea?
Everybody in this room loves Linnea
All right.
Quigley. I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Does
Linnea
anybody
Quigley,
not?
Brink Stevens, awesome. Awesome people.
What were they like to you? Like, were they somebody who, you know, people who would give you advice, or were they just kind of let you do your own thing, or?
They both kind of let me do my own thing. I never got to know Linnea all that well, because when I was starting out, like, she was kind of taking like a bit of a hiatus from like the conventions and stuff like that. Brink I would see all the time, and Brink and I bonded instantly. Like instantly. And like we didn't really talk too much advice, because I mean I just kind of, like I started working so young that I was kind of on my own trip, and then it got to the point where like I would occasionally refer her for stuff, she'd refer me, and it was just this very cool actor, chick, Scream Queen thing, and it was just dope.
Is there anybody that, maybe just somebody that we've never heard of, just even any actors or anybody that whenever you would be in a movie with them, that they really taught you a lot more than what you ever expected? Even just from, by example?
Maybe of what not to do. Like, there's a few actors that I won't mention that definitely teach you, like, wow, really, you're just making a movie, dude. Like, you have no reason to act like that. And I'm sure some of you have seen some of them at conventions where you're like, wow, really? Why are you that much of a dick? Like, I'm here to buy your film and buy an autograph from you. Well, what gives you the right? You just make movies. Like, so definitely seeing people like that. And I think also being, like, starting the conventions and stuff like that so young, and being a fan originally, like, I would see people act like that. I'm like, wow, like, why are you that way? Like, we should be thrilled that anybody wants to talk to us, let alone buy a friggin' movie from you for 20 bucks. You know, so I learned a lot by example of seeing people like that at conventions mostly, a few of them on set. Like, I had one guy on a movie, and you guys may be able to guess it, but I can't tell you because I'm actually friends with him. But on Movie Life, he's a real douche. And he actually called people a saboteur. Like, who says that? Like, you're a saboteur! You're ruining my acting! I'm like, really? You didn't say saboteur? What a douche. So yeah, so there's moments that I've learned things like, you know, when you want to have your I'm so tired and I don't want to be at work today moments, that you go, oh, wait, let me remember that guy. Okay, don't be like that guy.
One of the things I wanted to ask you about is, there's a movie that you were in, I don't know how many of you guys have seen it, it's called Ted Bundy. Yes. Yeah. And I heard you had a pretty unique experience.
Oh, that guy, I forgot about him. Michael Burke Riley, he's a fucking piece of work. Michael Burke Riley, and I have no problem saying his name because it was just not a nice experience. You do not go method when you're playing a serial killer. It's just, that's just weird. Like, I had come onto the set, and Matthew Bright directed it, who did Freeway, who's pretty awesome. If you haven't seen Freeway, you should watch it. And you should see Ted Bundy if you like really weird serial killer films. And he played a great Ted Bundy, in my opinion. He did. He's great. He's phenomenal. And
It's funny.
yeah, he's funny. Who said that?
I think the film's funny.
It is funny, and that's what a lot of people got mad at it about. They were like, the subject matter isn't funny. Okay, well, it is kind of funny if you think about it, that people back then were so accepting of everything, and oh sure, I'll walk you to your house in the secluded woods, you know? Like, people weren't as afraid as they were now. That's kind of not funny, like ha ha ha, but kind of comical. Anyway, Michael Burke Riley, before I'd come on set, I had heard a few weird stories that in scenes with women, they would end up hurt afterwards. Like, you know, there's like a scene where a girl's like hanging, like he's choking her from a tree or something, and like he bruised her larynx or something like that. And like, apparently the story was like, it wasn't just like an accident, like they had said a few times, hey dude, you're hurting me, and it never got better. And this was like the third or fourth story that I heard, and then I have a scene with him where I'm supposed to fight him and kick his ass and get away. And kept like smashing these cuffs on my wrist, and like every time it got harder and harder. I'm like, bro, like, we're acting, it's a movie, there's a camera, like, relax. And every time it just got worse. I'm like, look dude, we're gonna fight in like 3 seconds, like, chill the fuck out. He didn't, and so like pretty much all of the blows in that scene are real. Like, me fighting him, I bit him. And then the nerve of this guy afterwards, he went into the makeup room and was like, that bitch is crazy, Tiffany Shepis is nuts. I'm like, yeah, so.
Saboteur.
The saboteur. Oh, what a douchebag, huh? Like, and then like that was the whole thing. People were like, he went method like for a serial killer. Like that's some sicko stuff right there. But he's very good in the movie. Just psychopath, maniac.
One of the people I wanted to ask you about, I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with him, but I think this guy's a really good filmmaker, and he's come out with some really cool stuff over the last couple of years. His name's Chad Farron.
Chad's a cool guy.
You worked with him on The Ghouls. Did you know that he was going to be making really cool stuff for a while?
I didn't, but I also don't even really remember the ghouls, to be honest with you.
Really?
Yeah, I played a pregnant ghoul, like, with a unibrow. and the funniest thing was, like, a few years ago, somebody was doing an interview with me, and they're like, oh, tell me about the ghouls. I was like, I wasn't in a movie called The Ghouls. And they're like, yes, you were. Look, it says right here. And I'm like, what is it? I had to watch it to remember. So Chad's always been a nice guy, and I was like, yeah, I want to do a cameo in your ghoul movie, and that's what I did. But he's definitely, like, come a long way, and he's doing some stuff that people are crazy about. Same thing with Adam Wingard. Adam Wingard, who did Homesick, did like Horrible Way, 100 Ways to Die, Horrible Way to Die, or something like that. That like won Toronto, and doing all these like crazy, and Popsicle. I don't know if
That's a
anyone's seen.
weird acid kind of movie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If you guys have never seen Homesick, definitely check it out. It's really a weird movie.
It's a weird movie.
And Bill Moseley's in it, and it might be the creepiest thing I've ever seen him do.
Right?
And he's not in it for that long, but what he does in it is
It's just creepy, because it's so kind of normal but weird, and he smiles really big, and it's basically the story of like this guy who's Mosley, who breaks into our house during a party, but doesn't like break in. He just kind of walks in while we're having this party. We're all drug addicts and weirdos, and he has this case full of suitcases, and he takes me hostage, and he's like, he's gonna kill me unless everyone in the room tells us who they hate. And everyone's like, what are you talking about? Like, I hate this guy that beat me up in high school. And I hate so-and-so. And then one of the kids goes, I hate everybody in this room. Mosley leaves, and the next thing you know, everyone in the room starts to die, and all these people start dying. It's just very bizarre and weird. And Mosley has like whited out teeth. It's just weird.
What's he like to work with as an actor? Because I would assume it's probably at least somewhat intimidating, because he's really good.
He's really good, and he's really amazing with what he brings to the table, because what was written in that script was nothing what he put on screen. Like, he came there and he had songs made about his character, and like little riddles and fucking jokes. I'm like, what are you doing? Way to make everyone else look bad, asshole. Like, I didn't write a song about my character. So yeah, he brings like a crazy amount of energy and a crazy amount of like research that he's put into everything that he's done. You know, like, he knew what his character ate for dinner that day. And I'm like, wow, you're so bizarre. So, but he's great. He's great. He definitely makes everybody feel at home and let you have a good time. And then you can go in the woods and pick berries with them.
He has an album out. It's pretty
Like the
entertaining to listen
corn
to.
nuts or
Bugs.
something.
Yeah.
Corn bugs.
Corn
Yeah.
bugs.
With him and Bucket.
He also, didn't he collaborated, that's one with Buckethead?
Mhm.
Okay, yeah.
At least I think so. Pretty sure. Another thing I wanted to ask you about too was Nightmare Man. And the reason why I wanted to ask you about that is I know it's rough working on indie flicks. A lot of times because you don't get any recognition. Some of them pop out on DVD,
Yeah.
you never see them again, or you never hear of them again. This is a movie that actually got into theaters. Did you get a chance to see it in a theater with a regular audience, and what was that like for you?
I got to see it in the best black theater in LA. And people were like, yo, bitch, run! Run, bitch! Oh, you don't take those pills, girl. Don't take them fucking pills! I was like, this is fucking awesome. And that was one theater I saw it in, and then I saw it in another theater, and it was basically me and the director by ourselves. I was like, wow, I look good, huh? And he's like, yeah, I did good. And I was like, uh-huh. Cool, man. And it was so pathetic. And we spread out, too, so it looked like it was crowded. He was like down there. I was like, how's it going, man? You want some jujubes? But yeah, certainly seeing your movie on the screen is always awesome. Like, I mean, you totally geek out, and you go to the marquee, and you're like, oh, look, you know, that's mine. It happened for me the first time was with Ted Bundy. Like, because Romeo and Juliet came out theatrically in New York, but I was so young, and I had such a small part that, like, it wasn't as big a deal as, like Ted Bundy and then Nightmare Man, and, you know, you're always jazzed. But you're jazzed, like, when your movie comes out, period. Like, I just took a picture of somebody's DVD cover today of Live Evil. Now, it's a horrible film. Oh wait, no, it's really good. But I have never seen the movie cover before. I didn't even know it was out.
Okay.
So like you definitely geek out when you're like, oh wow, that thing's out now. That's pretty awesome, you know. 'Cause they don't often always come out.
One movie I wanted to ask you about, because I think the movie's pretty interesting and it's kind of quirky and different, is a movie called Dark Real.
Dark Real's another one that didn't really come out.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to get a screener of this movie, and it's a cool movie because Lance Henriksen's in it, playing a character that's like, he's not like a tough guy, he's like a movie type, so it's kind of weird.
It's
but
different. It's not your typical Lance Henriksen, like, I'm fighting a Sasquatch.
Yeah. Which you've been in that one
I was
too.
in that one too, with Lance Henriksen. Yeah, Dark Real was a sad case because it's Lance Henriksen, Tony Todd, Mercedes McNabb, Ed Furlong, Rick Baker's in it, Tracy Walters, that little short kid from Nightmare on Elm Street, little dude, little fucking crazy dude with the weird eyes.
Is it
Guy from
Miko?
976 Evil?
Huh?
No, I think it's like fully different.
Yeah. Oh, that little dude
Johnny Depp.
who was the son in Elm Street.
Is it Miko?
I think it's not Miko.
It's not?
Is it?
It might be.
He's like little short, Dwight Witt, no one? Okay.
None of us know anything in this whole room. That's great.
We need Tim Gross. Where's Tim Gross?
Where is Tim Rose?
Tim will
Next
tell
door.
us.
VHS.
Oh, he's in the VHS room? No. Anyway, it had a shit pile of people in this movie, and the movie never went anywhere. And the sad part about it, it's kind of like the distributor screwing, the little guy again. The director was a first-time filmmaker, and he, kind of bought the hook, line, and sinker of, your movie will come out theatrically, and we're going to do this with it, and it's going to play everywhere, it's going to have 7 slots at Redbox, and it's going to have this and this and this. But it was all kind of a verbal handshake deal. And the movie never played anywhere. Like, I think they had a deal with, like, the last existing Halloween videos. And it's such a shame because that could have easily been, like, a Sci-Fi Channel original. Because, it's not the greatest movie of all time, but any means.
I liked it.
It's better than
You liked
that
it?
stuff.
But yeah, it had it was shot on film. Like there's nothing that's shot on film anymore, so it looked beautiful. I mean, I'm in it, and I get to have sex with Ed Furlong.
So you guys see where this is going. What's it like to work with him?
It's funny because working with Furlong on that movie was interesting. He very much didn't want to be there. He looked very different than you remembered him. But he was okay. But then I worked with him on Demons, and it was like a 360. Like, he totally turned shit around and was fun and quirky, and he was quirky and weird, and he's like a man kid, like all these like child actors are, But he was cool, and he was excited to be there, and I don't have anything bad to say about Furlong, but the sex scene was so hot. Talking to the camera like that.
Just curious of what you think about this. A lot of actresses get pinned as scream queens, and I've heard you've been described that way. Do you like it? Dislike it?
I think if you're cool enough to get a label, why would you not appreciate it? You know what I mean? As long as it's not like just, oh, that whore, Oh, like I said, I never aspired to do anything. It's not like I had these like child, toddlers and tiara, dream of like accepting an Academy Award. It's like I wanted to make horror films. I wanted to make indie horror films, and like the only goal like I really had growing up was like, oh, look at fucking Brink's line. I want to have a line like that at a convention, Like I was like just jazzed to be a part of the horror community in any way. Like my only like dream is like to have a bigger horror film that reaches out to like a bigger group of people, because it's a lot of times only dudes that come to our conventions that go, oh yeah, I've seen that, or because they bought it at my table, because you can't always find these films. It'd be kind of cool to have something that's a little bit more widespread, if, some of the pieces of shit that come out nowadays, like, come out, why can't others,
That's true.
So yeah, so having Scream Queen as a label is awesome.
And I have a question for you. It's somewhat personal. If you don't want to answer, you don't have to.
Okay.
I'm a big fan. He's no longer with us. I was just curious what it was like knowing Corey Haim.
Corey's a good kid. He was a good kid. He was a kid, like a man-child, Like, you have, I think it's like any actor, kids that grew up that fast with that much money and that much fame, super fast, it's like a recipe for disaster, like 9 out of 10 times. Like, I know a lot of child actors, and I'd say 9 out of 10 of them are completely fucked up. And it's hard, especially when you do really so well for such a long time, and then all of a sudden it's like Hollywood's like, all right, yeah, I'm done with you. You're not as cute as you were before, and oh, now you got a drug problem. All right, see you later. You know, and it's sad, but he's a good kid, and everyone loved him, and fans loved him. You never hear of anybody. I mean, I don't know, maybe you guys, but like shows that he was at, like where a fan would come up to him, and whether they're buying something or not, that he didn't totally embrace you and say, hey, dude, thanks for watching. Oh my God, you love License to Drive, so did I. You know. Nothing bad to say about him, certainly. It was a cool kid to know.
Cool. Any questions?
I think we covered it all.
What's your personal favorite movie?
The Hazing. The Hazing
Nice.
of ones that have been out. New ones, I'm really, really, really big fan of Bonnie and Clyde vs. Dracula, which comes out in like 3 weeks. And it's awesome. No, I'm serious. It is so much fun. Like, if you like movies like The Hazing and you're not just like, oh, I just need darkness and everyone just dying left and right, and you want something fun, Bonnie and Clyde vs. Dracula is top notch. And the Frankenstein Syndrome. The Frankenstein Syndrome, it's about illegal stem cell research gone wrong, and I play a molecular biologist. Into that acting. And I play a molecular biologist, and we're brought to this underground stem cell research facility. Basically, we're commissioned to create a serum, which is basically like the ultimate healing serum, which Ed Lauder, who's been in everything in the 80s, hires all of us to do. He creates this fancy team. Well, of course we create it. Of course we inject it to someone. Of course shit goes fucking wrong. And, you know, it's kind of a spin on Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, and it's shot beautifully. My husband directed it, who, he's alright, he's not as cool as me, but he made a movie called The Great American Snuff Film, which a lot of people really liked, and a movie called Death of a Ghost Hunter, which any of you that watch streaming movies on like Netflix like have all seen it, because it's for some reason really popular. I wasn't in it. But anyway, he directed it, I produced it, and I starred in it. We have Louis Mandylor from My Big Fat Greek Wedding is also in it, and he's really kind of dope. He's Costas Mandylor's brother from the Saw series, but he's way better than Costas. So you guys should check that out when it comes out at some point, or buy it off my website when I bootleg it.
Any other questions? Good.
Who would you like to work with as far as directors go?
As far as directors go?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. I know who I want to work with acting-wise. I want to work with fucking Jeffrey Combs. Because, like, we did Abominable together, but we didn't have any scenes together. And then he and I did a animated series, which never came out, called The Night Driver, and we both played voices. He played this crazy maniac, and I played the hooker that he falls in love with. And so we got to be in the same room together, and this is, like, such a geek I am. Like, we got to be in the same room together doing the voiceovers, right? And he's standing there, and I'm standing here, and I'm like, keep looking at him. He's like, what's up? And I'm like, oh, nothing. I'm just, you know, looking over our lines. And he's looking at me like, what a fucking weirdo. Our lines are down there, you know? And I'm like, total geek out moment. And this is how fucking stalker creepy I am. Like, I'm looking this way because I know his email's on there. Not that I'd ever email this man, ever, but I was just like, no, I knew it. Like, it's so fucking creepy. Anyway, so yeah, it's like the nerd fan kid in me, like, trying to stalk her and get Jeffrey Combs' email address. So it'd be really cool to have scenes with him in something. Director-wise, I don't really know. I think I don't watch enough new movies to really tell you who I think's all that great, personally. I know the dude that did Trick or Treat would be kind of cool, just because Trick or Treat was pretty badass. But I don't know. I think Jeffrey Combs, I really like to work with Sherilyn Fenn, because she was just hot, and she was so hot in Twin Peaks, and then she went on to do, like, I don't know, Gilmore Girls or something. That was dumb, but in Twin Peaks she was really hot. What's that? And you, I want to work with you. So bad. It's just because you look like you'd be interesting. Is he interesting?
I'm retarded.
Well, you got a hot wife, and so that means you're kind of interesting, because I don't think you're rich.
He's loaded.
Then come buy something on my table.
No, I just meant drunk.
Oh, loaded? Oh,
Yeah,
shit. Buy me a Yingling.
Any more questions, guys? That's it. Tiffany Shepis, everybody.